The night was unnaturally still. No wind, no sound, just silence hanging over an ancient place that had long been forgotten. Beneath an old, crumbling mosque in a remote town, hidden under layers of dust and stone, something had been waiting, untouched for over 1,000 years. No one knew it existed. No one, except one man. Dr. Ion Malik, a historian obsessed with lost manuscripts, had spent years chasing whispers, rumors of a hidden chamber, sealed away during the earliest centuries of Islam. Most people called it a myth. He didn't. He had found a map, old, fragile, nearly impossible to read. But every line, every symbol pointed to one place. And tonight, he was finally there. "This is it," he whispered. His team began digging under the mosque floor. Hours passed. Stone after stone was removed. The deeper they went, the colder the air became. And then, they hit something solid. A door, ancient, sealed, covered in faded Arabic calligraphy unlike anything they had seen before, slightly different from the modern script of the Quran. Ion's heart pounded. Open it. The moment the door cracked open, a rush of cold air escaped, as if the chamber itself had been breathing for centuries and was finally exhaling. Inside, it was pitch black. Flashlights cut through the darkness. And there, in the center of the room, sat a small wooden chest. Untouched, perfectly preserved. Ion approached slowly, almost afraid to breathe. His hands trembled as he opened the lid. Inside, a book, old, fragile, wrapped in cloth. He carefully unfolded it, and froze. This can't be. It was a Quran, but not like any Quran anyone had ever seen. The pages were yellowed with age, the ink slightly faded, yet the writing looked alive, as if it had been written yesterday. The team stood in stunned silence. "Get this tested," someone whispered. Samples were taken immediately. Days later, the results came back. Over 1,000 years old. The room went quiet again. But the real shock hadn't even begun. Scholars, linguists, and historians gathered to examine the manuscript. Every page was scanned, every word analyzed. At first glance, it was the same Quran known today. Same chapters, same message. But then they noticed something strange. Subtle differences, not in meaning, but in form. The way certain words were written, slight variations in spelling, a different structure in a few lines. Nothing major, but enough to raise questions. One scholar leaned back, stunned. This might be one of the earliest written copies, from a time before standardization. Another added quietly, or a protected version, preserved before scripts were unified. Ion listened, confused. If the Quran has always been preserved exactly, then what are these differences? The investigation deepened. Every variation was documented, every letter compared, and then, the truth began to emerge. None of the differences changed the meaning. Not one. They were variations in writing style, dialect, early script forms used in different regions. The message, the core, the essence, remained completely untouched. Ion took a deep breath. So this doesn't challenge preservation. He paused. It proves it. The room fell silent, because what they were looking at wasn't a contradiction. It was evidence. Evidence that despite different writing styles across centuries, the message had remained exactly the same. But there was one final discovery. At the very end of the manuscript, on the last page. A handwritten note, faded, but readable, ancient Arabic. Translated, it read, "Protect this book. Time will change, people will change, but the truth will never change." Ion's eyes filled with tears. This wasn't just a manuscript. It was a message, sent across 1,000 years. When the discovery went public, the world reacted instantly. Some were shocked, some were skeptical, others were deeply moved. Debates exploded online. Experts argued. Videos went viral. But no matter the angle, every serious analysis came to the same conclusion. The message is unchanged. Days later, Ion returned to the chamber. Alone, he stood in the silence, staring at the ancient Quran. "You waited 1,000 years, he whispered, just to be understood." The air felt different. He gently closed the chest, and left it where it had been all along. Because some truths aren't meant to be displayed. They're meant to be discovered, understood, and felt. And some truths, fact, that was only the beginning. Within days of the discovery going public, the world changed. News channels couldn't stop talking about it. Historians called it the most important manuscript find of the century. Social media exploded with theories, debates, and reactions. Some called it a miracle. Others called it a mystery. And a few called it a threat. Dr. Ayan Malik had barely slept in 3 days. His phone wouldn't stop ringing. Emails flooded in from universities, research centers, and even government agencies. Everyone wanted access. Everyone wanted answers. But Ayan knew something they didn't. There was still more hidden inside that chamber. Something he hadn't told anyone. The night after the discovery, when everyone had left, Ayan went back alone. He couldn't explain it, but something was pulling him back. The silence inside the chamber felt heavier this time. Different. He walked to the center, to the place where the wooden chest had been. And that's when he noticed it. The floor. There was a faint marking beneath where the chest had rested. Almost invisible, like it had been hidden on purpose. Ayan knelt down, brushing away dust with his hands. A symbol, not random, not decorative. It looked like a map. His heart started racing again. Wait. This wasn't just storage. He followed the lines carved into the stone. They pointed toward the far wall of the chamber. Slowly, carefully, he moved toward it. The wall looked solid, but the markings didn't lie. He pressed against the stone. Nothing. He tried again, this time pushing harder. A low grinding sound echoed through the chamber. The wall shifted, just slightly. Ayan stepped back, stunned. There's another room. The opening was narrow, dark, almost suffocating. No one had entered this space in over 1,000 years. He turned on his flashlight and stepped inside. The air was colder here, heavier, as if time itself had been trapped. The beam of light moved across the walls, and then stopped. Writings, hundreds of lines, covering every inch, not Quranic verses, but explanations, notes, commentary. Ayan's breath caught in his throat. This is something else. He moved closer, reading fragments. These were reflections from an unknown scholar, someone who had studied the Quran deeply, and documented thoughts that no one had ever seen before. But what shocked him most was the date, written clearly on the wall, only decades after the lifetime of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Ayan's hands trembled. This could be one of the earliest interpretations in existence. He kept reading. The notes didn't change the message of the Quran. They explained it, clarified it, defended it, as if the writer knew that one day, people would question, would doubt, would search. And then, at the far end of the room, there was something else. A second chest, smaller, locked. Ayan hesitated. Something about this felt different. He slowly opened it. Inside, scrolls. Dozens of them, perfectly preserved, each one labeled, each one organized. Translations. In early languages, some matched dialects long extinct. Others looked completely unfamiliar. Ayan whispered. They were preparing for the message to reach the world. It wasn't just preservation. It was planning. Planning for centuries ahead. Planning for different cultures, different people, different times. And suddenly, everything made sense. The first Quran in the wooden chest. It showed the message was unchanged. But this hidden room, it showed something even bigger. That the message was meant to spread, carefully, accurately, across the entire world. Ayan sat in silence, overwhelmed. This discovery wasn't just historical. It was intentional. Someone, over 1,000 years ago, had gone to extraordinary lengths to protect not just the words, but the understanding of those words. The next morning, Ayan faced a decision. If he revealed this second chamber, it would shake the world even more. But it could also be misunderstood, twisted, used for the wrong reasons. For the first time, he wasn't sure what to do. That's when he remembered the note from the manuscript. Protect this book. Time will change, people will change, but the truth will never change. Protect, not expose, not exploit, protect. Days passed. The world kept asking questions. But Ayan stayed silent. He released the findings about the Quran manuscript, but said nothing about the hidden room. Nothing about the scrolls. Nothing about the deeper truth. Some of his colleagues grew suspicious. Are you hiding something? Ayan would only reply, not everything is meant to be rushed. Because he understood something now. Some discoveries aren't dangerous because they're false. They're dangerous because people aren't ready. Weeks later, Ion returned one last time. He stepped into the second chamber, looking at the writings, the scrolls. The silent voices of the past. You trusted the future, he whispered. And now the future is here. He carefully sealed the hidden room again. Just like it had been for 1,000 years. Because some knowledge needs the right moment, and that moment hadn't come yet. As he walked out of the mosque for the final time, the sun was rising. A new day, a new chapter for the world. But beneath the ground, the deeper truth still waited. Silent, patient, unchanging, and somewhere in the back of Ion's mind, one question remained.